Hi everyone, my name is Nora Crone. I'm a violist in New York City, co-founder of the Till Project for String Players, and a musician's vocal dystonia recovery advocate. And in this video, I'll be talking about the relationship between anxiety and musician's vocal dystonia, and the role of anxiety in the recovery process. So if you found this video, chances are you've probably already read or seen something suggesting that there's a relationship between musician's vocal dystonia and anxiety, or perfectionism, or other psychosocial traits. And you may or may not find that that correlation holds true in your case. I find that it does in myself and in other people that I've worked with, and there is some research that suggests there's a relationship there. However, I want to emphasize that there is no consensus on the precise brain mechanics that cause musicians' vocal dystonia, and while many musicians have recovered using different methods, we can only speculate as to why those methods are effective and how they work. My personal experience has been that neuroplastic retraining, when done correctly, is an effective and reliable approach. If you want to know more about how I recovered and how I assist others, I invite you to check out some of my previous videos. But in a nutshell, when I say neuroplastic retraining, I mean using movements based on physical logic, the same physical logic we use in our everyday lives, to change the neural pathways involved in our playing. Now, what about the anxiety, you may ask? How does changing my movements promote recovery if it turns out that the key to dystonia is something going wrong in the nervous system, or in a part of the brain that doesn't have anything to do with movement, or if it's because of trauma? So if we examine the subject of anxiety and how it may contribute to dystonia, some interesting questions arise. Why, for example, do we experience dystonic symptoms at our instruments, but not during other complex tasks, even if we're anxious while doing those tasks? Let's come back to the subject of movement for a moment. Imagine having to work as a carpenter. Only from day one of your training, you were told you had to use your arms and hands in a completely different way from how you use them in daily life, and you had to practice those alien movements constantly so you internalize them, even if they are uncomfortable, nonsensical, or painful. You practice these movements for hours each day, and then eventually you start building things, and some of them hold together, and some of them have nails sticking up all over the place and are falling apart because your movements actually make it quite hard for you to achieve the accuracy that you're going for. And over time, you start to sell what you make, and you know that if you do a poor job, you'll lose work, and people will think less of you. And when things still don't work well, people suggest all kinds of things. I think you need to squeeze the handle harder, or make your shoulders more tense, or make your arms floppy. And it really makes no sense, but you do it anyway, because these people seem to know what they're talking about, and you want things to come out well, right? And then one day you find out that the next cabinet you make is going to be featured in Architectural Digest magazine. And if it's beautiful and well built, they'll give you a great write-up, and if it's bad, you'll never work again. Okay, so maybe you found that example relatable, or maybe you thought it was a little silly, whatever. The point is, no matter what our conscious brain may insist about our excellent training, about how prepared we are, about how many times we've done this before, there is a deeper part of us that knows when our movements don't make sense, when they don't feel good, and when they aren't reliable under pressure. It puts us in a constant struggle against our own instincts and physiology, even when that struggle has been buried under decades of training. And so there's a constant underlying fear that when we need our movements the most, they won't be there for us. And that is a cause for profound anxiety. Now, I'm not saying it's the only source of our anxiety, or that there aren't other factors at play. As I said, no one knows what's at the root of dystonia. Of course, all of us have a particular psychological and physiological profile, including our life experiences with and without the instrument, which may well have been traumatic. But when approached correctly and thoroughly, a neuroplastic retraining process that's based on applied physical logic can resolve dystonia, and anxiety reduction is part of that process. Here's how. First of all, we start with basic movements derived from daily life that often take place away from the instrument and then gradually become applied to the instrument. These movements are in fact the fundamental building blocks of healthy technique, but we can take advantage of the fact that we perceive them as unrelated to playing in order to break our habitual associations and start creating new motor programs. We also often start by working with a non-affected arm, using it as a blueprint for how we want the affected arm to move and what experience we want the brain and nervous system to have during that movement. In this way, we decondition the automatic patterns that the brain and nervous system are employing that result in dystonic symptoms. We're essentially removing the instrument from the special and problematic category that we've assigned it to with all of its attendant alien logic, and placed it back in the realm of ordinary objects that we relate to in secure and sensible ways. The instrument itself ceases to be an object of struggle and stress, and along the way, our dystonic symptoms diminish. In addition to changing our automatic relationship to the instrument and the logic of our movements, making them sensible, grounded in a physical logic that our brain recognizes as stable and familiar from daily life, this process also changes our relationship to music making. Once we recognize that playing is a series of concrete, quantifiable physical tasks, a collection of precise movements governed by observable and repeatable logic, the mystery of why things sometimes work and why they sometimes don't disappears. We stop berating ourselves for our supposed lack of talent or for not being able to capitalize on the talent that we do have. We stop identifying our musical self with what our hands have or haven't yet learned to do. It stops being about proving who we are and becomes about gaining the specific tools that we need to express ourselves. And the psychic weight that we've been carrying for so long starts to lessen. Dystonia recovery is hard. In my experience, it almost always requires direct one-on-one guidance. The process that I describe in my videos, using movement based on applied physical logic to induce a neuroplastic change in the brain, is what worked for me and what I use to assist others. But along the way, you may find that separate psychological or even spiritual work is needed in your recovery. And what I know is that we heal best when we get the support that we need. If you'd like to work with me or want to know more, please get in touch. I hope this information has been helpful. If so, please like it and forward it to anyone who you think might benefit. If you want more videos on dystonia recovery, you can subscribe to my channel. And if you want more tips on healthy string playing in general, you can subscribe to The Till Project. My name is Nora Crone and my website is www.noracrone.com. Thanks everyone. See you next time.